So, a couple of weeks ago, I had a rather in depth video titled Player Agency Matters, in which I spoke about how there is a portion of the player base that, for any number of reasons, are feeling left behind and like they have no voice. See, believe it or not, most flesh and blood players don't actually care if they win or lose, but rather how they win or lose. And with the increase in polarizing matchups during 2024, combined with a community that really only values the voice of the competitive elite, one can at least understand where they might be coming from. Now, that video was incredibly well received and had tons of engagement, mostly positive, but also some folks with really good counterpoints. Today's guest took reservation against one of my main points in particular, and did so very constructively. And in the spirit of intelligent discourse, giving merit to both sides of an argument, I asked him to join us today for a chat. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. So a couple weeks back, I had a video about player agency and how some players in Flesh and Blood are feeling just a bit left behind in the game. The video was pretty well received overall, but of course led to some feedback. Now, today's guest has had some really good counterpoints to my argument, and he joins us today to talk through them. So, Clark, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Andrew. Good to be with you.
So, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, your background in Fab, and we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. I started playing probably 4 years ago now. I think it was summer, fall 2020. Really got hooked based on all the YouTube hype. I think I may have seen one of your really early videos, because forgive me if I'm wrong, but you started covering the game right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And others were covering the game at that time. I just remember thinking it was cool, so I just jumped into it and started playing Bravo, and really haven't looked back. I've been playing Bravo pretty much exclusively the entire time. I've been finding pretty good success with Bravo. Still enjoy him. I think to this date I've only played I've only registered one different hero that wasn't Bravo in a rated tournament ever. And so yeah, your video from a few weeks back, whenever that was, I just wanted to make the case that specialists are a thing, can be a thing. Obviously it takes dedication, but it can happen, and my experience is Bravo centric, obviously. So I don't know on the difficulty scale how other heroes might compare to Bravo if someone were to stubbornly just play one hero the way that I only play Bravo. But yeah, I've been able to play Bravo, and so I'm here to make the case for specialists.
Yeah. So fair enough. So before we get into this, I do want to really commend you for being here. Right. It's brave from a certain point of view. You reached out and you made some cognizant arguments against what I was arguing. So putting yourself out there to also take feedback likewise in the positive and negative is brave. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge that going in. So you already touched on it a little bit, but really I want to turn it over to you. Where do you and I disagree?
Well, I think you were saying, based on some of the recent metas, maybe starting with Mistveil and continuing with Rosetta, that some heroes are unplayable, and that the idea of specialists is a thing that people talk about but isn't actually achievable in a way. It got me thinking, actually. I think you said in your video that the specialist idea or ideal that LSS talks about, and it got me thinking, like, yeah, I can totally see LSS thinking that. I think specialists can specialize, but it made me realize I can't actually think back and pinpoint a specific, like, article or video or time when LSS specifically said that, or if it was something that the community has come to know and assume and has just become part of the appeal of the game. If that was, do you recall if that was more like community driven, or if that was a statement indeed that LSS
Yeah,
came out with?
my comments about it was the specialist gaslight was the topic, and mine was more focused on how we as a community are not
Yeah.
are really setting people up for a misrepresentation.
Yeah.
I don't recall LSS ever coming out and saying you can play one hero forever, and in fact that seems
Right. Yeah.
counterintuitive to selling product. So I don't
Right.
know that they would do that. But
Yeah.
it definitely 100% is an argument that the community uses trying to sell new people in the game. It's like, don't worry, I know that tectonic plating is expensive, but you only need to buy one and then you're good forever. Right? I mean,
Right.
that is a real thing that we
Right.
can both agree on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. And I could totally see that coming community generated, and I've probably said it myself. So yeah, agree with you there. So let's try to defend the assertion that specialists exists,
Mm-hmm.
and that a player can specialize if they want to. So I guess, just let's first, I just want to say for myself, the definition of success for me is probably achieving a pro tour invite and playing in a pro tour. Like that's pretty close to my ceiling. I've played in 3. I've day 2'd in 2 of them, and my highest finish was in the top 100 of Pro Tour Baltimore. And for someone this is my first card game, like I was thrilled with that result.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't aspire, nor do I have the time to try to beat that. Like that was my ceiling. So I just want, anyone who might hear what I have to say here to know, like, that's how I define success, and everybody's definition of success can be different, obviously. But yeah, so I've locally and regionally, I've been able to qualify for 3 pro tours by winning pro quests. So bravo, all on bravo, by the way. So during the call it the ProQuest 1 meta, I had a Buckling Blow Mangle package for Bloodsheath Skeleta. For the Chane Starvo Prism meta, my approach was dodge Prism and beat everything else, and load up Rainbow Unmovables for Chane and Starvo, and fatigue some matchups and win some other matchups, and that worked for me. The ProQuest Season 3, I think, was the Lexi meta. One of those was Lexi, and I had choke slam, 6 choke slam and spinal and pummel, and that did the job. So I believe that Bravo specifically, and again, I don't know if this is true for every hero, but Bravo specifically has the tools. You can build your 80 for any meta, and
Mm-hmm.
that has largely been true. And the whole dodge Prism thing, yeah, Bravo into Prism before Everfest was doable. After Everfest was not so doable, right? But I think having a really bad matchup and having to get lucky on your tournament day is just part of the game as well. So I don't think that the existence of Prism in the matchup spread for Bravo was a disqualifying matchup to where all of a sudden the argument that Bravo players just shouldn't bring Bravo anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having a bad matchup, I think, is fine. So anyway, that's a little bit about honing your 80 for predicting what your local meta is, or your regional meta if you're going to a ProQuest or a RTN. Having a little bit of knowledge of what people like to play, and then bringing a Bravo list that can do well into that field is totally doable. Just more generally, I think specialists have to be able to specialize. I think there are some heroes that just aren't viable without their specialists, and the specialists lead the way with those heroes. I think to an extent, LSS has to embrace specialists. There is no other choice, like, for a few reasons, right? So just the amount of time it takes to get good at a hero, and maybe there are people who can excel at a faster clip than I can, but it took me a while to get good with Bravo. I don't have time to bounce back and forth to a bunch of heroes, and so like my default is just playing Bravo, right? Because I have years and so many tournaments worth of experience with Bravo. The time it would take me to get to that level of knowledge with a different hero that's not Bravo is just way beyond what
Hmm.
like the amount of time that I have. So I think if specialists aren't able to play their favorite heroes, or maybe they have, you know, 2 or 3 favorites and they can, at least one of them is playable. Like if that doesn't exist for specialists, that's just a problem for the game, period. Like a
Hmm.
broader problem. Not to mention, you know, another point is the idea that okay, specialists are great and all, but you have to react to the meta and you have to be able to pivot to whatever's popular in the meta or whatever's powerful in the meta, right? Like not everyone is going to have a full play set of all the fab cards, all the Majestics and legendaries to be able to just pivot to whatever hero is the
Hmm.
best hero at the time, right? And so the idea that um, you know, I get the tier 4 players probably have access to any card that they need to have, right? Through buying it themselves, through sharing it with their team, right? A lot of those players are on teams. Um, you know, any open entry tournament, whether that be a calling, RTN, or a ProQuest, I think is going to have people playing their favorite heroes. Like, and that you know, their favorite heroes might be their favorite for so many different reasons. Like maybe someone just really loves the lore and the art that goes with a hero. There's a lot of hero identity in the game, obviously. Maybe someone, their first legendary they ever opened, you know, that resonated with them, whatever. For me, like one of the reasons I really enjoyed Bravo being a Guardian is just swinging big weapons and hitting real hard, right? And I come from a Diablo background and I always played Barbarian in Diablo, right? So like that was, I think, one of the reasons why I picked up Guardian first. So I just think that there's too much momentum behind specialists, and to not embrace it is a mistake. And I think with the statements that we've heard from LSS in the last 4 months or so, they're realizing it too. They agree. So I think, you know, specialists. There may be times like Bravo into Prism in the Everfest meta. There may be times when the ability to specialize was difficult for sure. Um, but LSS has also done things to recognize and acknowledge that. They've banned cards. They've given us other cards for the card pool, and most recently they've come right out and said we're fixing this problem. We're no longer relying on bad matchups to police the meta. We are instead taking a better solution, which is just to give the classes the cards that they need. So yeah, I get it. The specialist gaslight argument may have been true and may be more true for some heroes than other heroes. And again, my lens is just Bravo, so maybe it's like easy for me to say, right? Because Bravo has so many different cards for different purposes. But I think in the future and in the ultimate end state, once this card pool gets built out that they're talking about, that statement about specialists, I put it this way: specialists will be a thing, and the ability to specialize will exist in Flesh and Blood's long term.
Okay. So you mentioned your I mean pretty good resume there, right? Of and congratulations, right? It's well done. And
Thanks. Yeah.
I would also deem that as being successful, right? Within being a fab dad and all that, in
True.
real
Yes.
lives, right? So
Yeah.
with that said, though, or not with that said, it's not a counter. I'm curious how you think that your previous successes on that hero have emboldened maybe your heightened your confidence, whatever it is, and allowed you to weather the storms, right? I mean, you already
Yeah.
mentioned the Everfest period. If you hadn't done well on Bravo, would you feel the same?
Right. Right. No, I think you're right about that. Like one of my early successes, I think the first ProQuest that I won was streamed live by Ethan, and it was at a local game store here in West Michigan before Ethan moved to New York. And apparently there were a lot of like live viewers because that was one of the last ones of the season. And after that win, a lot of people reached out to me. A lot of Bravo players reached out to me, and I did I was able to build a bit of a Bravo specialist network after that. And that network has been totally valuable, like for sure valuable in being able to maintain momentum and success
Hmm.
with Bravo. I mean, I'm not on a testing team at all. Never have wanted to be, never have invited to be on one. Also, have never tried to be on one. Um, and to have to know who in the community are the Bravo players and to be able to, brainstorm with them is something I still do to this day. Like it's a tight knit group of folks. So you're absolutely right that that early success did sort of pave the way and build my confidence
Hmm.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So then, if you were to transpose yourself to, say, someone who came in, and let's just stick to Bravo since that's the, let's just put it in your wheelhouse, right? Let's say
Yeah,
someone came in the Everfest meta or some of the other metas we've had since where Bravo just wasn't
yeah,
really, he
yeah,
failed to start or whatever term you want to use.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
do you think that they would, let's say I don't want you to speak for other people. So put yourself in those shoes where you came in Everfest. Do you think that you would still have the love for Bravo that you did now if it took you a year of losing?
Um, well, I had a year of losing. It was my first year. I think the first booster boxes I bought were Arcane, well, the first three unlimited versions, and I was playing before Monarch came out, and yeah, I was losing for sure. And that was before the whole OP circuit was like
Right.
what it is today, and before I even knew what success in the game could even be. Um, and I was absolutely just playing it as a hobby, and it was fun, and it still is fun. And so, yeah, I did lose a lot. What would I say to someone who is joining now and is looking to play Bravo now? I mean, I've had these conversations with locals in my area. Bravo is a great introductory hero. He
One of the
has a lot
best.
of tools. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. The play patterns are straightforward, but to game plan for specific metas and to have a matchup plan for each hero, for Dromai, for Icelander, or the fatigue matchups. When, let's face it, some of these heroes, Bravo's only win con is fatigue, right? And that's just like, if my choice is play Bravo and play fatigue, or don't play Bravo, right? I'm gonna have a fatigue package if the meta calls for it, because I'd just rather play Bravo. And in those tournaments, I'm not fatiguing every matchup. I'm fatiguing the ones that I have to, because Bravo is my favorite hero. Anyway, to get back to your question, um, yeah, I would say, yeah, you're gonna lose a lot. I would say there are a lot of online resources. I mean, imagine the amount of online resources we have now compared to what we had in late 2019 into 2020, right?
Sure.
So, Discord groups, there is a Bravo specific Discord. There are Bravo channels and a bunch of different Discords. There's access to deck lists. There's YouTube video content. And I think this game is totally a get out of it what you put into it type of effort thing, right? And so, yeah, I would encourage anyone to pick up Bravo, and I think a lot of people do. In my area, I know that there are a lot of people who are eagerly awaiting the Mastery Pack in
Hmm.
2025, and say, yeah, Bravo was my first hero, or Guardian more generally was my first introduction to Flesh and Blood. So yeah, for sure, I think that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it comes to specialists, I think you nailed on something with the mastery pack there. I don't know that specialist these days even means necessarily a Dorinthea specialist or a Bravo specialist, but probably more so a class specialist.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Give you a little
yeah.
flexibility, try something different, go over to Jarl for the weekend or
Right,
whatever.
right. Right. Yeah, I think there is enough difference in the way that the Guardians play for sure, to where the other Guardians do appeal quite a bit. And like I said, there's U.S. Nats this year in Minneapolis was the first tournament I ever registered a hero that wasn't Bravo, and I took Victor to that tournament. So totally agree. Bravo was the entry door, but now that the roster is more filled out, I am definitely looking forward to the day um, when I'll be playing Betsy for sure. I do like Victor, but his the clash mechanic leaves too much chance to things off the top of the deck. I'd much rather be more in control of the outcomes than relying on what might be on the top of the deck. That's just me though. But yeah, I think class specialist is another great angle that someone can take, and buy into a class and be pretty easily buy into a class and be set pretty well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I think last thing I just want to throw on your plate, right? Parch, again, if we harken back to the video in question, one of the things I spent a lot of time describing was the needs model, right? And how
Yeah.
different
I thought
folks
that
are
was
in
well done.
oh,
Yep.
well, thank you.
Yep.
But yeah, part of that is how once you really achieve or become comfortable with one level, then your needs change. And I would argue that right now you're near the top of the pyramid. You've achieved your success. You don't feel like you have to prove yourself in flesh and blood anymore, and now you can get joy out of something different than trying to prove yourself within the game. So, do you agree with that analysis, and how do you think that factors into again the gaslight argument for someone who's significantly lower on the pyramid?
Yeah, I'm definitely content with my Bravo success for sure. I would like to do well with another Guardian. I think that's my next challenge. Um, I mean I run a local armory in at an LGS that's closest to my house, and um, I do a lot of other things that keep me engaged with the game more generally than just playing the hero that I like to play. Um, but to your point, this fall has been pretty busy for me in the life outside of Fab, and after Minneapolis was over, I have sort of taken a bit of a step back. I didn't play in any ProQuests, PQ London season events. I didn't play in any of those, um, partially because of my own schedule, partially, if I'm being truthful, because of the Mistvale heroes. I think Enigma is tough for Bravo. The other two are beatable with the
Mm-hmm.
right 80 cards. Um, and so, this has afforded me a bit of a time to step back. But yeah, I'm definitely into 2025 with this promise that we've all heard about fixing the card pool along with the Guardian Mastery pack. Yeah, I haven't lost any interest, broadly.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, I mean that's interesting, I guess, because you've taken a step back, a pause, which we all need to do from time to time. It's healthy.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so, but you have faith in the future, right? And part of that
Yeah,
faith in the future is because of your past experience, right? So,
yeah,
if you
yeah,
were a new guardian coming in, is it reasonable to think that other folks might
yeah,
feel a different way?
yeah. I think there is a bit of a problem in, um, not necessarily communication, because LSS does a lot of great things with their social posts, their dev talks, their complete willingness to take any question from an open crowd,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think someone like you or me who's been around a long time and has consumed every piece of content and every piece of communication from the mothership, right? I think we have a lens of history to view every like new bit of news through, right? A new player who is maybe starting the game in 2024 and looking at Bravo,
Mm-hmm.
and in the first 5 games they ever play, maybe they play an Enigma. They're just not going to know, right? They're not going to know that there were times when Bravo was really great. There were times when Bravo has not been so great. Like what you're currently feeling trying to beat Enigma is only a temporary feeling because help is coming. Like they might not know those things if they're only casually paying attention, or if they just haven't been around long enough to hear all these messages that we've all heard. So I do think, I don't know what the answer is. But I do think more can be done to inform the player base of, like, hey, we hear you, we agree with you, we're fixing it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And by the way, we acknowledge we made a mistake, which LSS has done many times. I mean, if you look at the first 15 minutes of that dev talk number 9, I mean, they are just putting they're just putting it right out there, right? And so, but you have to be plugged in enough to like have your YouTube notification go off and watch Dev Talk number 9. Like you have to be that plugged in to see that. Otherwise, if you're just playing Bravo into Enigma at an armory, you might very well be frustrated. So, yeah, I think there's some merit to that, and you know, constantly putting the message out there and reinforcing with all the players what their intentions are, does go a long way and will continue to go a long way.
Yeah, I think that's actually really insightful. I mean, I know myself, folks will be like, hey, did you see, Brian on this cast? And I was like, no, honestly, I didn't. Right. Like,
Right.
I just didn't.
Yeah, totally.
And there is this expectation out there, again, because the folks that are more engaged online, the ones who comment, are generally the ones who spend more time online, right? It's kind of how it works. So be like, well, you're wrong because over in La La Land, this was said. And you're like, well, I don't know that. Right. So I think it's actually really insightful.
Yeah, like let's just break down an example. Let's just take a minute here, right? So one of the recent things that they've said is, and I don't think this was filmed. I read this off of somebody's notes from the Osaka design panel, but there was a comment made by Brian Gottlieb saying we absolutely over relied on bad matchups as a way to police certain decks, and so like that is absolutely LSS coming right out and saying we agree that there's a problem and we're fixing it, just be patient. That's them saying that, right? But to someone who doesn't have the full background, like we might need a translator, right? Or like we might need to like put that in really simple terms. So what does that mean exactly? Well, okay, so for me, I'm a Bravo player, right? Enigma is a really bad matchup. If I'm going into a tournament, do I bring Bravo or do I not? Well, if Enigma is going to be highly represented, I might think twice about bringing Bravo, right? But LSS's point of view in the past has been Enigma has natural bad matchups, right? In the form of Ninja, I think. I'm not an Enigma player, but I think Ninja is a bad, or maybe among the worst.
Seems right. Seems right.
Okay, so Zen is a natural counter to Enigma, and will naturally lower the number of people who choose to play Enigma. Therefore, the specialist who stubbornly just wants to play Bravo can play Bravo, and they might need to get lucky with their gem pairings, but bringing Bravo is at least doable, right? And Zen also has natural bad matchups into Assassin. So everybody checks each other, and it'll be fine. Well, the reality is that people don't want to be told play Zen or an Assassin and here you go and you'll be fine. People just want to play the heroes that they like the most, right? So Enigma's natural counters aren't being checked because people aren't playing those natural counters for whatever reason. And so the Bravo specialist suffers because there's a lot of Enigma players because Enigma is not being checked because the assumptions they made about how Enigma would be checked or kept in check aren't coming true. So what's the better fix? The better fix is to just give the Bravo player the cards to deal with Ward, right? So that's what they mean when they say we over relied on bad matchups to correct the meta. But you have to read the BNR where they did the 2025 design principles, the part of that talked about growing the card pool. You have to read all these announcements and watch all these videos to have like the complete understanding of what they're saying when they say we over relied on bad matchups. Like, what does that mean exactly? Well, like a new player that doesn't know all the history might not put all those puzzle pieces together.
Yeah. And I think you're touching on a really, and to be fair, you said that they're going to work on it and fix it, which we'll be patient.
They've said they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're touching on an important point from my video to where I was, because when he's talking about the triangle, the circle, whatever, that's mostly focused and balanced around what? The top competitive, right? Because that's where they get the data from. Yeah. That's what they have it based on. Yeah. So a good point from my video was, well, what do you do when you're the specialist at the armory? Right. And now everybody's on Enigma because she just won Worlds last weekend.
Right.
And you feel like you're banging your head against a wall.
Right. Yep. Yeah, so I've been in that position, and we don't have a huge player base in my direct area, but I do run an armory. And the best thing I can say to answer that question is if your local armory is being overrun by what is most popular in the meta to the point where non-competitive players are not showing up as much anymore.
Hmm.
The tournament organizer, whoever runs that army, whoever owns that store, needs to recognize that they need to trade. You know, they need to take off weeks, like play CC, play Blitz, play limited, play UPF. Like they need to have a read on what the people in their local scene like to play and play those things and keep everybody happy. And some people will really like the format one week and won't like it as much the other week. But yeah, that to me, what is good on a tier four ultra competitive meta coming down and ruining the experience for the regular armory goer is not a a problem. It's not an LSS problem. It's
Hmm.
not something to assign fault to anybody to. If that is happening locally, that is because the tournament organizer has allowed it to happen. And the tournament organizer should be better, in my opinion. Tournament organizer needs to know what moves the needle for people and keep people coming back. And if they have to change the format every once in a while, they should do that.
Yeah, so I actually agree with your statement. Very, very. Again, I'm a TO, right, for my
Right.
not for my LGS because I don't own it, but the one I go to as
Right.
well, right. So we're
Yep.
we're very similar in that
Yep.
regard, right. And
Yep.
and I do the same thing. And we actually changed ours. It's probably 6-8 months ago at this point. We no longer give the cold foil for the victor. We just raffle it off, and my
Yep.
armory attendance has doubled since then.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
There you go.
because there's a I mean, it's not discouraging anyone to do anything, but there's no encouragement to come smash face,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Right. Right. Yep.
So I mean, you still can come smash face, but you'll get your 3 points and high five, and then we'll raffle it off, right? So I think you have a really strong argument there. I do though feel for I think you and I have an advantage in this regard because one, we're more mature individuals, right? And by that I mean older. I don't mean like I don't know, maybe
It's a
maybe you're
polite way
not,
to say it.
but right. But
No, no, no.
you've been around the block a time or six, and you've
Yep.
hurt people's feelings in the past. But I do really feel for a lot of these store owners who they're trying every day to make ends meet, and they're standing at the counter and they're getting bitched at. Well, who's bitching at them more often? And maybe it's not even bitching,
Yeah.
right? But who's giving them the feedback? It's generally the person who wants to go win the cold foil, right? Or something like that. Your person who doesn't feel like they belong because they're getting pushed out by the competitive players, by and large, isn't going to complain. They're just going to walk away. So I do really feel for someone in that position who, again, is trying to run a
Yep.
business. They have other things going on. Maybe they aren't, and to your point, maybe they aren't as plugged in as they should be. I grant you that. But they're worried about 5 other games, whereas you and I have the luxury of being
Yeah.
focused completely on our
Yeah.
community.
Right. Yep. No, I run the Flesh and Blood events for the store local to me, and I also run the Discord, which is Flesh and Blood focused for the store, and nothing else.
Yeah.
I'm not even an employee of the store, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Same as you. So, um, yeah, I think you're right. I think owning or operating a store is tough, and you have a lot of competing priorities for sure. And so, I would also encourage anybody who is frustrated with the state of things in their local scene to take it upon themselves to fix. The armories at the store I've been referring to here only exist because in 2021 I went to all the stores in my local area, none of which were hosting Flesh and Blood, and I kept asking till I found one, and all I said was, if I do the work, can we use your space? And that's how it started, and it's been going for three plus years now. And I know the other store owners in my area are very open. I mean, they poll the group. What do you guys want to play? What do you want to do this week, next week? Yeah, I mean, they put the schedule out in advance. So like, yeah, everything is known, and everything is influenceable, right? And a reasonable store owner will listen if a player comes up and says, "Hey, do you think maybe once a month we could try this or that, or whatever it is?" Like, people should do that.
Yeah, I agree. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, I find that we're agreeing more than we're disagreeing.
Yeah,
What is this
for
all
sure,
about?
for sure. Yeah, no, this was good. Yeah, I think yeah, the argument for specialists, especially going into the future, and I think the ability for specialists to specialize is a good thing for everybody. Um, and so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just the one thing that got me out of that is Jagged Edge for Warriors, right?
Right,
Jagged Edge for
right.
Warriors should not be an
Yeah,
M, right? If their argument is that it's so crucial to for the class to be able to take something on, why is it a Majestic? It seems more like a, especially in a set where it's, I could understand if it was an expansion slot because that's how that works. But
yeah.
it's coming in a Warrior set. It feels to me like it should be a Rainbow if it's so essential to making the class compete. What are
Right,
your thoughts on
right,
that?
right. Well, Assassin's got two rainbow, right? Pick the pieces and the line are both,
Mm-hmm.
cards with that same text on it. Brute has got rock. Uh, Runeblade has got the Vincent hero ability. I think that's it, right? Warrior has
Well, I
the.
guess Gloomveil, in a certain point of view.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, true. True. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Majestic versus should it be a rainbow? Yeah. I think there are instances of cards that are rainbows that should never have been. And I think there are instances of cards that are Majestics that you could make an argument should be rainbows.
Mm-hmm.
I think that street can go both ways. I mean, the bonds ban, right? There seems to be consensus that that should have been a single color Majestic. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't think of it that way. But at the same time, we're that's not the last Warrior card that'll be printed, right? So we have yet to see when they say we're going to build out this card pool for you. Just be patient, and the hunted is the first instance where you're going to start to see some of those things. Like we don't know what their vision for the end state of that card pool is. We're seeing just the beginning of it still. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, who knows?
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, thank you for again putting yourself out there. I thought this was a and again, thank you for having feedback and doing it so in a positive manner. We don't
Yeah, for
see a lot
sure.
of that these days, so it's
Yeah,
appreciated.
cheers to you for making that initial video well articulated, bringing the hierarchy of needs into it. I thought was a great tie-in, and just moreover, uh, the structure you bring to your videos draw people in, and congratulations also to you for covering the game for 4 years, as we just had I'm sorry, 5 years, since we just had the 5-year anniversary. So well done to you as well.
Well,
Keep it up.
here's to the next 5. So,
Yeah, for sure. The next 5. Sounds good.
all right. Well, before we get out of here, do you want to give any shout outs or tell people where to find you or or
Oh
not,
no,
as it may be?
I mean, I'm on Discord, Twitter, and Facebook, and people can find me if they want to find me. So no, nothing special to shout out. Looking
Okay.
forward to playing more Bravo in 2025.
How about your LGS? Where can we find you on what day of the week?
There's a few in my area. There's Legends in Grand Rapids. There's Sidekick in Grand Haven. There's Hidden Alley in Allegan. Those are the 3 closest to me, and then the one that's in my backyard is actually a sports card store. They do sell games, but the one that I've been saying that I run the armories at is a sports card store. So they specialize in sports cards, and the name of that one is TC Sports Cards. So yeah, we've got it's a much better than it was in 2021. I had an hour drive to get to the nearest armory, so things are much better. I've got 4 options in my area now, so it's good.
Well, it's a place we need to get to because I've always wanted to go to Grand Rapids for some breweries. So there's a
Yes.
brewery or 6 in Grand Rapids that is
Yeah,
worth going
it's a
to.
beer city for
Yeah,
sure. Yes, there are several. Yep.
beer and fab sounds like I need to get over there
Yep.
ASAP. So
Yep. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Let me
all right.
know when you book your trip.
Yeah, we'll do. I've got your contact info and I know how to find you. So all right, sir.
Awesome.
Well, thank you again for joining, and hopefully you'll say it with me. Go
Go
Commando.
Commando.
Nicely done.
See ya.